Blue Mountains. The Blue Mountains. It doesn't make any sense. They're not alien, they're not blueberry flavoured, and they're not even really blue. They're green. It's weird, right? Well, it all comes down to three things. Light from the beautiful warm sun, waves, no, not that kind, or that kind, and the king of the Australian bush, the eucalypt or the gum tree. And turns out they're not blueberry flavoured either. To understand how these three things work together to make the Blue Mountains blue, we need to break it down a bit. So you might think that light is white, but it's actually all the colours of the rainbow mixed together. And in order to see those colours, we need to use a special thing, a prism. I've got one here. Prisms make a rainbow. Let's try. Oh wow, it's beautiful. Okay, time for some serious science. As the light travels through the prism, it refracts, and that's just a fancy way of saying it gets bent. And when it comes out the other side of the prism, it gets spread out with the red colour on top and the blue colour at the bottom, and all the other colours in between. And this happens because light travels in different wavelengths. Red has a long, slow wavelength. Yellow is in between, and blue is a really hyperactive and fast wavelength. Not that kind of wave though. It's like this. The blue light waves are small and energetic, and they're more likely to bump into lots of tiny things as they make their way from the sun down through the air and onto the ground. Red light waves are big and long, and they can actually miss things. They don't bump into stuff like the little blue light waves do. But this still doesn't explain why the Blue Mountains look blue from up here when they're actually green, or for that matter, why they're not blueberry flavoured. So we're going to do an experiment to explain it, and we'll find out what the gum tree has got to do with it.
Ah! Help! My ships! I've sunk 15 of my ships! Oh my goodness! No, I'm just kidding. These ships are meant to be there, but not all shipwrecks happen in the pirate movies. Shipwrecks actually exist in real life, and some of them are really unfortunate accidents. Back in the olden days, travelling by ship was actually the fastest way to get both people and goods from country to country. But while at sea, accidents would happen, and sometimes these ships sank. And people will go back and look to see where these ships sunk and see why they sunk and what actually happened. And it's really good to go back and look at these shipwrecks. We can often learn a lot about why they sunk and even learn about the ocean itself. These wrecks have been sunk on purpose to form a break wall for smaller boats that visit the island. Some shipwrecks are still being explored decades after they've sunk. One of the world's most famous shipwrecks, the Titanic, it sunk in 1912, and people are still exploring it today. So here, just off Moreton Island, some of these wrecks were sunk deliberately, and they make for really cool diving adventures. I'm interested in what happens after they're sunk though. It's kind of weird, right? These big, huge ships just lying on the bottom of the seafloor. But after a while, these wrecks actually become artificial reefs and habitats for the local wildlife. I'm not going to explore them alone though. I've got my friend Sam here to help me have a look. Okay, Sam, so we're about to head out. Is there anything I need to know?
Hey, Sean. Look, of course, man, there is definitely a few things you do have to be aware of. These shipwrecks have been sunken for quite a while. They are now covered in a lot of different growth, including barnacles, and obviously being metal, they are rusting in the water.
So what kind of sea life lives on these things?
Okay, so we're actually quite fortunate here at Tangalooma. We actually provide a home for both tropical and subtropical species. We have about 200 species in total, ranging in that species from your tropical ones like we've got butterfly fish, we've got a lot of Moorish idlefish, a lot of different types of parrotfish, and a lot of different subspecies of these types as well.
So how does the coral grow on an old ship?
Coral actually grows on these because they are the perfect environment for them. They're completely submerged in the water, super still, which enables coral to be able to latch on and actually start to go from there.
So is there anything you do on this side of the island to warn people in other boats that might be out here that there's an island here and that there's all these sunken ships?
Yeah, of course. Look, Moreton Island has actually quite a number of navigational markers all set up along the island, as well as in the water as well, with flashing lights and obviously different reflective beams and things like that.
All right, Sam, that sounds great. I think it's time for me to head in.
Awesome, enjoy.
Let's go.
Light can have a huge impact on people's moods as well. In some countries, like in England, it's dark until 9 a.m. in the morning, and then the sun sets again at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. Imagine that, it's already dark by the time you finish school. It's actually really important for your body to get enough sunlight during the day. If not, your body can start to feel really strange, a bit like sad and meh. It's not only humans that need sunlight to survive either. Plants do too, and they do this through a process called photosynthesis, where they take the energy from the light from the sun and convert it into a chemical to help the plants grow. So we know a bit about why humans and plants need light, but how does it work?
In my last experiment, we learnt that light isn't actually white. It's actually made up of all the colours of the rainbow. And we used my fairy prism. I mean, my scientific prism. We also learnt that light travels in waves. And of all the wavelengths of light, blue is the most hyperactive, it's a little bit clumsy, and it bumps into all the things that get in its path. So what have eucalyptus trees, or gum trees, got to do with this? Like all living things, trees breathe. Trees breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. And eucalyptus trees also breathe out eucalyptus oil. Now, if you take a eucalyptus leaf and break it open, you can actually smell the famous oil, eucalyptus oil, coming out of the leaf. And I have to say, there are a lot of eucalyptus trees here in the Blue Mountains. And that means there's heaps of oil and water in the air for that busy blue light to bump into. So as the sunlight moves through the thick air up here, all of the blue light wavelengths bounce around, they bump into things. It's a bit like they're stuck in an eternal game of ping pong. Ah! So all that bouncing around means we can actually see the blue light wavelengths. And that's why the Blue Mountains look blue. If you head inside to a dark place, you can try this for yourselves. You're going to need some equipment. A torch, some milk and a stirrer, some vases with water, and some black and white cardboard. Next, you have to add some milk to one of your vases. The milk is like the oil in the air, and the water in the vase is like the air. I've put in 20 drops of milk, that should be enough. Now I just need to give it a stir. The torch is like the sun. And when you shine it through the milk and water and the light beam glows blue. And that's because the milk particles trap the blue light and it bounces around looking blue. And you know what? It looks even better in the dark. Lights. If I turn my cardboard from black to white and then shine my white light torch through the milky water, the blue light gets trapped by the milk, and the yellow and red and orange long, slow wavelengths of light, they can make their way through past the milk particles, and you end up with an orange glow on the white cardboard. And when you look at the water that doesn't have the milk in it, you can see all of the white light gets through. Now it's time to go and check out some of those long, slow, orange and red wavelengths for ourselves. Wow, is that the time? Let's go check them out. Isn't science dreamy and beautiful? But it doesn't taste like blueberries. And where have the fairies gone?
Have you ever been told not to stare directly at the sun? Because it'll damage your eyes? Well, that's some great advice because it's absolutely correct. The lens in your eye focuses the light onto the retina where it can literally burn away those cells. So looking at the sun too much can actually damage your eyes. But what happens if you don't have enough light to see properly? You may have heard that reading in the dark is bad for your eyes. Well, I have the answer. That's coming up next on GetClever. Was that too cornea? No?
Lights out, Bache.
You may have been told that reading in dim light damages your eyes, but it's so tempting to get a torch and read with that when you've been told to turn your lights off. But will it damage your eyes? When reading in a low light, your eyes adapt to change in a few ways. First of all, the rods and cones in the back of the eye, known as the retina, start to release chemicals. These light-sensitive chemicals process light and convert them to an electrical signal, which is sent to your brain for processing. Because of the dim light, the coloured part of the eye, also known as the iris, opens wide to let as much light in. But here's where it gets tricky. When reading in a low light, your eyes are being told to relax and open wide to let in as much light. However, they're also being told to contract and focus on the words. So you're confusing your eyes a bit. It's like running non-stop for ages. Your muscles will get tired. Your eye muscles are similar. They'll get pretty exhausted if they're working overtime. So remember, if your eyes are getting tired, make sure you take regular breaks. Or better still, read under a proper light. Earlier on GetClever, I was exploring shipwrecks here on Moreton Island. There are about 15 shipwrecks scattered near the entrance to Moreton Bay, and while these ones were deliberately sunk, this lighthouse was built to prevent accidents from happening at sea in darkness. The lighthouse here on Moreton Island is over 150 years old, and it was actually built from sandstone quarried right here on the island. For a long time, it was the only light across the whole of the east coast of Australia. The flashes from the lighthouse are also really important. They're not just random, they're called light characteristics. This lighthouse gives 4 flashes of white light, and they're exactly 3.3 seconds apart. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they do this every 20 seconds. Each lighthouse has its own distinctive characteristics. The pattern, colour and timing of the flashes tells those at sea where they are on the map and that there's a dangerous coastline nearby that they need to avoid. In the olden days, this lighthouse had a lamp in it that was lit by oil, kerosene and gas, but now it's completely electric. And today this light can be seen an amazing 28 kilometres out to sea. Most modern lighthouses also have fog signals such as horns, bells or even cannons to warn ships of these hazards. In the modern age, with GPS technology and satellite tracking, the need for lighthouses isn't as great as it once was. But you know what? They still look pretty amazing and they're a very important part of our history. There used to be 5 different lighthouses all around the island. And the lighthouse keeper would live in a cottage next to the lighthouse in order to keep it operational and maintain it. The idea of using light to avoid land has actually been around for thousands of years. Ancient sailors used to use volcanoes as a way of seeing where land was and avoiding it. They've evolved over time from being towers with fire in them that someone had to keep lit from sunset to sunrise to these modern towers today, which are fully automated. They were built near dangerous coastlines, reefs, or to signal that a harbour was safe to enter.
Imagine you're looking down a tunnel. There's lights around it. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. If you want to spin your mates out, this infinity mirror should do it. It's an optical illusion and it gives the effect of lights going on forever. It's pretty trippy.
How's it work? It's light reflected back and forth between two mirrored surfaces until the light intensity fades to nothing, giving the illusion of infinity or lights trailing off into the distance. And I'm going to show you how to make one. And what you'll need are a couple of picture frames, the tricky part, finding one with enough depth to fit our lights, black cardboard, Christmas lights, some water and detergent, mirrored spray, which you get from a hardware store, tinted film, also from a hardware store, a screwdriver or something pointy to poke the cardboard, a ruler, craft knife, scissors, a squeegee to apply the film, a hot glue gun, but always ask Mum or Dad for help when you're using it. First up, we're going to disassemble the frames and remove the glass. So carefully, you just want to pull off the backing, and then very carefully, with your parents' help, remove the glass, and then we're going to do the same with the other frame. And you can see with this frame, it's got the depth, and we're going to use this one to put our lights in. For our first piece of glass, we're going to use our mirrored spray to create the reflective surface, but it creates heaps of mess, so make sure you do it outside. So here's one I prepared earlier, and this is going to be the backing of our infinity mirror. So I'll put that aside. On the second piece of glass, we're going to put our mirrored film on. We get our film, and now using the scissors, we're going to cut around the glass, leaving about a 1 centimetre perimeter. And now to apply the film, we spray a little bit of detergent onto the glass, and then we peel back the sticker on our film. And now we're going to spray a bit onto the tint and lay it onto the glass. It's kind of like covering your books at school. You got to be really patient, otherwise you get bubbles. And now with the squeegee, you just want to get out all of the bubbles. There. And now we're going to get our craft knife and cut it out. Get an adult to help you with this, because the knife is really sharp. And always have a surface to cut on so you don't ruin your table. Okay, now the film's on, we've got our mirrored surface. And now for the fun bit, time to install our lights. So grab the cardboard, you'll need 4 strips. Carefully with your craft knife and your ruler, measure 15 millimeters. Now we need 2 of those. So same again, because if you push hard, then you can make a mistake. And now for the shorter pieces. Okay, now that we've got our 4 sides, grab your frame and make sure they fit. Time to measure out the holes for the lights. I think I'll do the lights about every 2.5 centimeters. Find the middle of the strip, go along with your screwdriver or your point, make a little indent. All the way along. Okay, now you've got the mark, now you can push the holes right through. And you just want to continue to do this on all the strips. Time to grab the Christmas lights and poke them through all the holes. Okay, and start at one corner and poke that through. And just keep doing that until all the lights are in. You must use LED lights for the project. Normal lights will heat up too much and could be dangerous. The lights are installed. Let's give them a test. Perfect, they work. It's time to put our tinted film piece in. Put the mirrored film into the frame with the shiny side up. Okay, and now we're going to put our lights in on top. Squish them down, and then we're going to put the other pieces in. And the same on the bottom. It's time for the back mirror. You want the reflective side, not the frosted side, face down. And there should be enough gap just for the cord to squeeze out there. And now a little bit of hot glue. That's going to hold that in place. You only need a little bit of glue, so you can pull the mirror out if you need to. Let there be light! It's an amazing infinity mirror that'll spin out your friends and look great on your bedroom wall.